right now is a good time, or until this conflict, it was a good time to have a negotiation. Politically, we'd have 5 or 6 months to fix that deal. But with American elections coming up and all that Congress has to do to support the deal, it's hard to imagine Democrats and Republicans in Congress cooperating to give the Biden administration a victory in the lead up to presidential elections in 2024. So this may, really delay moving forward on the agreement, and perhaps delay it for, until after the elections. Just a week ago, the National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, talked about, a peaceful Middle East and how great things are going in the region. I think this really hammers home the fragility of the situation. It's not only that there's a real war going on between Israel and Hamas, but also failing economic states in Egypt, in Lebanon, in Syria, and in Tunisia. The region is really, I think, quite fragile right now as a whole.
It brings me to my next question, which is that currently the U.S. Congress is without a speaker. Affairs of the People have come to a halt as this week the House is expected to look for a replacement for Kevin McCarthy. Now, one of the thorny issues that led to Congress being where they are is the continuing support for the Ukraine-Russian conflict. And here we are seeing another war at hand again. What do you think, A, is next? B, lifts the United States in all of these global affairs?
The distraction from the war in Ukraine, the lack of a speaker, the potential election of Representative Jordan as the next speaker, a congressman who opposes U.S. military assistance to Ukraine. The outlook is not great. I don't think this is the right place for the United States to be in. I think this is a priority for Washington, and in that sense, while the tragedy, while the slaughter in Israel is a great focus of the United States, it's really in many ways also a distraction from the larger conflict in Europe, and one that has an even broader consequences potentially for the United States and its allies in Europe. But meanwhile, regardless of where Congress stands on Ukraine, there is so-called iron-clad support for Israel within the Congress. There are a small handful of Democrats that have some issues with Israel, but by and large, the number of senators and congressmen who have issued statements and tweets in support of Israel is overwhelming, probably well over 95% of the House and the Senate.
One of the key things that runs through all the remarks that we've heard from world leaders, from Europe to the Americas to other parts of the world, is to the UK, for example, is that Israel has a right to defend itself. What does that mean?
In the past, this has meant that Israel has U.S. support and international support to some degree to be proactive in its self-defense. That is, if it sees a troubling development in one of its neighboring countries or an Iranian proxy, that it's going to be proactive. And we've seen in recent years as Iran has tried to establish forward operating military missile bases in Syria with the missiles pointing at Israel. Israel has flown over Syrian territory and destroyed these Iranian outposts, killing IRGC soldiers, troops. And so I think that in general is what we mean by Israel's right to defend itself. Now, I anticipate in the coming days and weeks, we'll start to hear discussion about Israel's disproportionate response to Palestinians. And I think we have to understand in this context that it's hard to imagine what a proportionate response is to the murder of 800 mostly civilians. I think only 50 of them were soldiers.